when Call of Duty games used to look like this?
Go to secure channel. Lock and load. Catwalk clear.
Now they look like this.
What the hell is even that?
It feels like back in the day, Call of Duty games were like mildly immersive and realistic. Like, yeah, if you boil down the things that you're doing, it's pretty absurd. Like attempting to shoot down a hind in Russia, getting into a snowmobile chase in Russia, or even hunting down an American general only to throwing knife him in the eye. Spoilers. My point is, back in the day, Call of Duty games knew what they were. They were kind of immersive, kind of realistic. They stuck to their setting, and you got every single bit of that setting through its campaign, its multiplayer, and some of its co-op mode, depending on which mode you played. Whereas present day Call of Duty seem to like want to be realistic, but also are afraid to be realistic because they know they're not going to sell as many microtransactions in their store. And not that I care. Like, if you want to go balls to the wall and just like develop the most ridiculous game possible, or at least through your multiplayer, go for it. I mean, I'm all about having fun in a video game, especially one that is a true arcade shooter, but don't try to lie to me and make it sound like, or even seem like, the game is anywhere close to immersive or realistic in any way, shape, or form. Especially like the Modern Warfare games. Like, it seems like there's a massive disconnect between how the players play the game and how the developers want the players to play the game. Because when I play these Modern Warfare games, it seems like the developers want these to be like slowed down tactical shooters, when in reality, Joe Schmo just chugged a bunch of G Fuel and pumped his veins with Adderall that he's literally dinking and dunking on my lobby like he's Tom Brady. Like, if you want to just screw around with your multiplayer so you can sell microtransactions, sure, fine. I literally just bought the reindeer skin.
Sure hope they're dumb enough to trigger this!
While I was recording this video. But don't make your game seem like it's realistic when all of a sudden in your campaign you had the big villain end up dying in a tank for, oh wait, he didn't die in that tank because he wasn't in that tank. Fuck! It's just time for the developers to be honest with themselves about what these games are. Like, every year at this point I've just started to go into it going, yeah, there's gonna be a Modern Warfare game, but it's gonna be a Modern Warfare game for about the first 2 weeks until they all of a sudden go, yeah, we need to add these new skins in the game. And it all really depends on how the player base feels. Like, there are some people out there that would rather the game stick to their setting and have nothing but modern types of skins and different types of maps and stuff like that, or even events. But for my sake, I know that's not realistic in the modern day of gaming. Because in the modern day of gaming, games that stick to their setting as a modern game don't really last that long or won't have that sustainability that many games need. Yes, there are some games that are out there like Insurgent, Enlisted, or any of those other types of games. Yes, they can be successful, but if you want to be successful on the scale of games like Fortnite, Call of Duty, Rainbow Six Siege, you need to eventually ditch the whole idea of realism sticking to our setting and start adding micro DLC that may not make sense with your setting. I mean, look at Rainbow Six Siege. They literally added Master Chief to the game. It makes no sense for what the game actually is, this uber tactical SWAT-like experience, but it doesn't matter because that kind of skin will sell. The Rick and Morty skins will sell. When the games end up ditching their entire idea of like what their setting is and sticking with that, it kind of makes the game better in my mind. Because at the end of the day, those games are just arcade shooters to certain degrees. And for games like this to be sustainable and offer content pretty much every year or every month, they need to look at what they're doing and change it up a bit. Whereas, let's say your campaign, try to make it as realistic as you can, or at least as close to your setting as you can. I mean, in terms of Call of Duty, if you're calling yourself Modern Warfare, literally have a Modern Warfare set campaign. Now, I think the new campaign wasn't very good, and I think it's just the fact that the developers seem a little afraid to admit as to what the games currently are, which is they're basically just Hollywood blockbusters in video games. But to a certain degree, it feels like each Call of Duty campaign has had a level of realism exist within it. I mean, I guess depending on which games you pick out, but even the ones that were set in a futuristic setting, I could sit there and go, okay, that sounds pretty believable for what the future may look like in combat. Which I think is another part of the problem, because when Call of Duty campaigns are super realistic, it's a massive disconnect then from what we're playing in the multiplayer, because our expectation is the multiplayer is going to be some super realistic level of gameplay. But then all of a sudden you get into the multiplayer and it's the farthest thing from it. Whereas if you played the old Call of Duty campaigns, you would realize that, oh, these games are just like slightly realistic but super over the top, again, like video game blockbusters, that your expectation for the multiplayer was vastly different. Summing this all up, realism in video games is stupid, and especially in Call of Duty games, I've never looked at a Call of Duty game and went, yeah, that's realistic, especially after everything I've seen over the last few years. my expectation for Call of Duty is just a stupid, mindless arcade shooter, and if you want to put any cosmetics you want in the game, go ahead. There's no immersion anymore in these games. Just at least be honest with your player base. Don't get up there and act like your game is going to be some realistic shooter that everyone's going to love. Just say, it's an arcade shooter, we're going to do what sells us the most copies, most microtransactions, because that's what you end up having to do at the end of the day, especially as Call of Duty is just a borderline live service game. And again, as so many other games try to adopt this live service model, Call of Duty is trying to adapt it into a yearly annual release schedule of having a live service game. But I'd love to know what you have to say in the comments section below. What do you think of Call of Duty and being a realistic, immersive game? Do you think it should go back to the days of old? Or do you think we're too far gone, especially with modern gaming, and the way it's going with just how micro DLC and live service games are really acting throughout the industry? Let me know what you think in the comments section below, because again, I'd really enjoy what you have to say. If you liked the video, great. Maybe consider leaving a like, and maybe consider subscribing. It helps out the channel. And if you didn't, well, it doesn't get much better than this, I promise. Thanks for watching, and well, bye.